Hello, tonight I'm gonna finish reviewing the Karate Kid films with The Karate Kid Part 3. It stars Ralph Macchio and Pam Morita as Daniel Russo and Mr. Miyagi for the third time. Martin Kove returns as Sensei Kreese for this sequel. And I need to tell you, as much as I liked the first two films, I did not like Part 3. I was very disappointed with it. I consider it one of the worst sequels ever made in the film industry. I'm gonna explain the plot in a brief manner and tell you the reasons why I do not like Part 3. Okay, in The Karate Kid Part 3, Daniel and Mr. Miyagi arrive back from Okinawa. The apartment building from Part 1 has been demolished, which puts Mr. Miyagi out of a job, so Daniel decides to open a bonsai store. Meanwhile, Kreese is in financial trouble because all of his students have left his karate dojo business, so he turns to a guy named Terry Silver for help. Terry sends Kreese on a trip to Tahiti while he forms a plan to sabotage Daniel and Mr. Miyagi. He enlists the help of a guy named Mike Barnes, also known as Karate's Bad Boy. In one part of the movie, Daniel shows Mr. Miyagi an application to defend his title at the next All-Valley Karate Tournament, but Mr. Miyagi refuses to sign it. At first, Daniel is upset, but later questions if it's necessary to defend his title at the next tournament. He meets a girl named Jessica, which the two decide to go out one night. On the night that Daniel thinks that is supposedly a date, Jessica tells Daniel that she has a boyfriend and she's not going to be in Los Angeles for long. Throughout the movie, Daniel and Mike Barnes have confrontations back and forth, and in one of those confrontations, Daniel is trying to retrieve a bonsai tree that he and Mr. Miyagi planted earlier in the San Fernando Valley, but Mike Barnes appears and makes Daniel have no choice but to sign the application, and to make matters worse, he breaks the bonsai tree. When Daniel tells Mr. Miyagi about the incident, Mr. Miyagi still refuses to train Daniel, and that makes Daniel turn his back on Mr. Miyagi and turn to a new mentor, Terry Silver. But he doesn't know that it's actually a trap. And earlier in the movie, Terry Silver kind of manipulates Daniel into seeing him for karate lessons. Terry trains Daniel in bad ways on karate lessons. On Jessica's last night in Los Angeles, Daniel takes Jessica to a dance club, but he doesn't know that Terry is there. Terry bribes a stranger to hit on Jessica for money. When the stranger tries to hit on Jessica, Daniel injures the guy, which causes a commotion in the dance club. Terry appears and pulls Daniel out of the club. He tells Daniel that he did the right thing, he had no choice, but Daniel still feels like he did something wrong, so he runs away. Back at Mr. Miyagi's house, Mr. Miyagi tells Daniel that he had a strong root in karate, and that karate is always in the mind and heart. So this convinces Daniel to end the karate lessons with Terry Silver. When Daniel sees Terry Silver, Terry shows who he really is, and Kreese and Mike Barnes appear. They taunt Daniel. Fortunately, though, Mr. Miyagi appears and saves Daniel, and finally agrees to train Daniel at the next tournament. Fast forward to the tournament. When it's Daniel's turn to fight Mike Barnes, Mike Barnes is beating Daniel to a pulp, which results the match to go into sudden death. And for some reason Daniel wins the tournament and the movie finishes. So that's the plot of the movie in a brief matter. Now I'm going to tell you why I do not like The Karate Kid Part 3. The first reason is I feel that for Part 3, Daniel went backwards. Like, he forgot everything. He went from being the strong, wise student of karate and then just like went down to the level where he began. I didn't like how Daniel turned his back on Mr. Miyagi, because it's like after Mr. Miyagi took you under his wing, taught you karate, and after you had this strong like father and son friendship with him, how can you just turn your back on him like that? Yeah, Sensei Kreese didn't have nothing to do in this movie. He didn't do anything. Terry Silver and Mike Barnes were over the top, and as a matter of fact, I like Sensei Kreese better than Terry and Mike. And the idea of putting Jessica and Daniel as short temporary friends did not make any sense at all, because in the first two movies, Daniel builds a love relationship with Ali and Kumiko in the first two films, and all of a sudden in this one, the next girl is just a friend. That didn't make any sense. And at the tournament, Mike Barnes is beating Daniel like brutally, and he's not stopping. Like, he's going and going like the Energizer Bunny, as the way I can describe it. But for some reason, Daniel wins the tournament with only one punch. I didn't understand that. So the other reasons why I do not like Karate Kid Part 3. Now, if you like the film, that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. But like I said, I do not like The Karate Kid Part 3. So this has been my review or rant on The Karate Kid Part 3. Thanks for watching. Take care and stay tuned for the last review. Later.